Hello, my friends. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I had been looking forward to this road trip for months. Just me, my car, and the open road. A week away from the city, away from deadlines, noise, people, away from everything. I had mapped out the route, picked scenic highways through the mountains, and packed my favorite snacks, playlists, and my journal. I was ready. The first few hours were everything I imagined. The air smelled like pine and asphalt. The road stretched ahead like a ribbon of freedom, and the sun reflected off the windshield, painting the world in warm gold. I rolled down the windows, letting the wind rush past my face, humming along to the music. I didn't notice the first sign. It was small, wooden, almost like a marker someone had carved. Do not follow the road beyond. I laughed. A warning for the faint-hearted, probably left by some old hiker. I ignored it. The road soon narrowed. Asphalt gave way to gravel. The trees grew closer together, their shadows lengthening unnaturally over the road. Something about the forest felt wrong, stagnant, heavy. The air was dense, like I could feel it pressing against my chest. That's when I noticed movement. At first, it was subtle, a flicker at the edge of my vision. I thought it was a deer, or maybe a trick of the sunlight. But then I saw it clearly. A figure, pale, standing perfectly still on the roadside. Tall, thin, and dressed in dark clothing that blended with the shadows. Its head tilted slightly, watching me as I drove past. I slammed on the brakes, my heart hammering. I glanced in the rearview mirror, nothing. Just the road disappearing into the trees. I tried to shake it off. Just nerves, I muttered to myself. But the unease lingered. I continued, though the road felt like it was stretching, bending in ways that didn't make sense. Every turn seemed to bring me back to the same place. I passed a mile marker, Hollow Creek, 7 miles, and 15 minutes later, another sign. Hollow Creek, 20 miles. Something was wrong. I tried calling for help. My phone showed no signal. Fine, I thought. It happens in remote areas. But when I checked the battery, it was dead. Completely. Not a percent, not a warning, just zero. The sky began to darken. Not the gradual evening descent, but sudden, almost violent, like the sun had been snatched from the sky. Fog rolled in thick and fast, blanketing the road, muting sound. My headlights barely pierced it. And then I saw the first car. Abandoned, old, rusted, parked in the middle of the road. No lights, no driver, just sitting there, waiting. I swerved, tires squealing, barely missing it. When I looked in the rearview mirror, it was gone. The fog thickened. The forest seemed to close in. And then I heard it. A scraping sound. Soft at first, like branches brushing against metal. Then louder, against the roof of my car, the windows. I froze. I told myself it was just animals, maybe raccoons, maybe deer. But instinct screamed otherwise. My hands shook on the wheel. My breathing grew rapid. Then I saw them. Figures, shadows gliding between the trees. Too tall, too thin. Limbs bent in impossible ways. No faces, just blank pale masks staring at me. Some moved slowly, deliberately. Others seemed to leap impossibly from tree to tree. All of them watching. Panic surged. I hit the gas, tires kicking gravel, but the road twisted unnaturally, looping back on itself. I passed the same abandoned car again. Another figure appeared. Closer, always closer. The radio burst to life, static at first. Then a whisper. You shouldn't be here. You belong to the road. I yanked the dial. Dead. The whispering continued in my head, overlapping, echoing. My pulse raced. The trees seemed to lean in, branches clawing at my car. The figures were closing in. I spun the wheel and tried to turn back, but the road had changed. The highway I'd been following had disappeared. There were no signs, no markers, only the endless stretch of fog and the shadowy figures surrounding me. Then I saw a building. A gas station, or at least it looked like one. Neon sign flickering weakly. Last stop. I pulled in, desperate. The pumps were rusted, empty, windows boarded. The smell of decay filled the air, like old blood mixed with rotting leaves. Inside, the store was empty, shelves covered in dust, cans of food long expired, and in the corner, a figure hunched over, small, shadowed, its head tilting unnaturally to one side. It raised a hand, beckoning. "You were warned. Now, you stay." I didn't wait. I bolted, back to the car, but the keys were gone. My heart sank. The whispers grew louder, chanting in a language I didn't understand but somehow knew. Stay. Stay forever. I ran into the forest. Branches tore at my clothes and skin, but I didn't stop. Footsteps followed, countless silent gliding. My lungs burned, my legs ached, but fear propelled me forward. Hours passed, maybe minutes. Time had no meaning. The fog never lifted. The whispering never stopped. I tripped and fell into a creek, mud and water soaking me. My flashlight rolled into the water, batteries dead. Darkness swallowed me. When I woke, I was lying on the side of a paved road. Sunrise painted the sky in soft gold. My car was gone. My backpack, my phone, nothing. Only the empty highway stretching endlessly ahead, normal and quiet. I ran to the nearest town, to civilization. People, lights, noise. They called the police, but no one believed me. No records of the road I'd been on. Maps didn't show it. My journey had vanished, leaving no trace. Weeks later, I drove past the outskirts of the city. I saw a sign in the distance, half buried in fog. Do not follow the road beyond. My stomach sank. The forest beyond that sign looked dark, dense, alive. I never drive alone now. I avoid highways at night, back roads, shortcuts. But sometimes when I close my eyes, I hear the whispering. Scraping, faint footsteps, shadowy figures at the edge of vision. And I know one day, if I'm careless, that road will call me back. Because some roads never forget. Some highways never let you go. And I know the forest is patient, waiting. I should have known it was a mistake the moment I left the city. I'd been itching for a road trip for weeks. Just me, my car, and the promise of open highways. No GPS, no itinerary, no responsibilities. I wanted freedom, the kind of freedom that only comes when the road stretches endlessly ahead, when the sky is wide, and nothing but your own thoughts keep you company. The first few hours were bliss. The city receded, replaced by rolling hills and dense forests. I sang along to my playlist, windows down, letting the wind carry me forward. There were no other cars, which at first I loved. No one to rush me, no traffic, no honking. Just me and the road. Then the signs started to get strange. I passed one that read, "Welcome to Brookhaven, 12 miles." 10 minutes later, another said, "Brookhaven, 30 miles." My stomach sank. I checked my phone. No signal. Fine, I thought. It happens in the middle of nowhere. I glanced at my gas gauge. It was full. I'd be fine. I took a left turn onto a smaller road, a shortcut according to an old map I had found online. That's when things really started to feel off. The road narrowed immediately, asphalt giving way to gravel and dirt. Trees grew closer together, branches brushing against my car as if reaching for me. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the road. I told myself I was imagining it, that it was just the sunlight filtering through the leaves. But the unease lingered, crawling up my spine. Then I saw the first figure. At first, I thought it was a hitchhiker, standing perfectly still at the edge of the road. Tall, dark coat, face hidden under a hood. But as I slowed to glance at it, it didn't move. Not a step, not a blink. Just watched. My stomach twisted. I floored it. When I looked in the rearview mirror, it was gone. No one there. Only the road stretching behind me, lined with trees that seemed impossibly close. The road began to twist, Curves sharp and tight, roads that seemed to loop back on themselves. I passed the same trees twice, maybe 3 times. I could feel panic creeping in. I tried calling for help, but my phone wouldn't turn on. Dead. Suddenly the car headlights flickered. I hit the dimmer, the high beams, everything. Nothing worked consistently. Then the sounds started. Soft at first. Scratches like something brushing against the sides of the car. Branches. Animals. I told myself it was nothing, but it didn't stop. The scratches became taps. A rhythmic knock against the roof. My knuckles went white on the steering wheel. I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. Shadows shifting in ways shadows shouldn't. When I swerved to look, there was nothing. But I could feel it. Watching. Following. Night fell fast. The sun disappeared behind thick, unnatural clouds. Fog rolled in, thick and suffocating, swallowing the road. My headlights barely reached more than a few feet ahead. That's when I saw them. Cars, abandoned, rusted, broken, scattered along the roadside like relics. Windows shattered, doors swinging in the wind, but no dust, no decay, just there. And the people, or what looked like people, stood beside them, pale, gaunt, unnaturally thin, limbs bent at impossible angles, eyes black, unblinking, staring at me, mouths open, whispering words I couldn't understand. I slammed the brakes and turned around, but the road behind me had changed. Twists I didn't remember, trees I hadn't passed before, and more figures emerging from the fog. Shadows, faceless, moving silently toward me. I floored it, trying to escape, tires crunching over gravel. Every time I passed a bend, more figures appeared, gliding alongside the car, moving faster than humanly possible. Then the radio turned on, static at first, then a whisper. "You shouldn't be here. Come back." I yanked the dial. Dead. The whispers continued, louder, overlapping, surrounding me. I could hear them in the car, outside, in my own head. My hands shook on the wheel. The road opened into a clearing. I could see a building ahead, a gas station, abandoned, boarded up, signs swinging in the wind. I pulled over, desperate, my heart hammered. I stepped out. The fog thickened. The air smelled like metal, like old blood. I looked around. No cars, no humans, just the faint shadows of trees and the distant echo of whispering. I thought I could breathe until I noticed movement in the fog, figures emerging from the darkness, not walking, not running, sliding, gliding, closer, always closer. I ran back to the car, fumbling with the keys. My hands were slick with sweat. The engine turned over. I spun the wheel and hit the gas. The car lurched forward, but as I drove, I realized the road behind me had disappeared. Trees closed in, forming a tunnel of darkness. The whispering grew louder. Now I could understand it. My name, over and over. Alex, Alex, don't leave. Stay. I panicked. I swerved, tires squealing, trying to find an exit. Every turn led me back to the same clearing, the same gas station, figures surrounding me, closer, gliding toward the car. I slammed the brakes, spun the wheel, and tried to go backward, forward, anything. Then headlights appeared in the distance. Another car? I moved toward it, hoping for salvation. It stopped. The driver leaned out, a smile, no eyes, empty sockets staring at me. I screamed and floored it, tires squealing. The fog closed in. My headlights flickered and went out. Darkness swallowed me. I don't know how long I ran. Hours, minutes. Time had no meaning. The whispers never stopped. Scratching, tapping, whispering, calling my name. When I finally woke, I was lying on the side of a highway. Dawn breaking over the horizon. My car, gone. My phone, gone. No sign of the road I'd been on. Nothing but the empty highway, stretching endlessly, normal and quiet. I stumbled to the nearest gas station. Real people, real lights. They called the police. They didn't believe me. No record of my car, no sign of the road I had driven. Maps didn't match my memory. But I remember. I remember the whispering, the figures, the endless turns, the gas station in the fog. I hear it sometimes, when I'm alone, a faint scratching at the edges of the road, a whisper of my name in the wind. I don't drive alone anymore. I avoid highways, back roads, shortcuts. I avoid travel altogether if I can. But every night, I dream of that road, that endless turn. And I know one day it will call me back, because some roads never let you leave. I always thought road trips were supposed to be fun. The freedom of the open road, a tank full of gas, a playlist to match every mood. That's what I thought when I left my apartment that Friday morning, driving east on Route 66 with nothing but a backpack, my car, and a vague plan to reach the next small town before nightfall. My friends thought I was crazy to do it alone. I thought they were just boring. At first, it was perfect. The sun bounced off the asphalt, the wind coming through the cracked windows, music blaring. I was in my element. I even stopped at one of those roadside diners for pancakes, chatting briefly with the waitress who had a strange habit of staring at the horizon like she expected someone, or something, to appear. I brushed it off. People act weird sometimes. By late afternoon, the perfect day started to unravel. The sky darkened unnaturally fast. Clouds rolled in thick and heavy, blotting out the sun like a shutter closing over the world. I tried to shrug it off, blaming it on typical mountain weather. But when I glanced in the rearview mirror, the sky behind me was still sunny. The sun I had left behind seemed to hover over the horizon, golden and calm. I blinked and shook my head. Strange lighting happens sometimes. The road became empty. I hadn't seen another car for miles. At first it was liberating, but soon it felt wrong. Too quiet. I turned up the music, trying to break the silence. That's when I noticed it. The signs. The mile markers were backwards. I passed one that said, Kingston, 15 miles. Then 10 minutes later saw the same sign reading, Kingston, 35 miles. My stomach sank. I tried to tell myself I was tired, my brain playing tricks. I glanced at the GPS. No signal. Not unusual in remote stretches, but then my phone died. Completely, instantly, even though it had been fully charged. The battery icon showed 0% as soon as I looked. A shiver ran down my spine. I considered turning around, but the road curved in a way I didn't recognize. The mountains ahead looked wrong, taller, darker than I remembered from the maps. The forest seemed thicker, the trees pressing in on both sides. I slowed down, and then I saw it. A figure standing on the shoulder. At first, I thought it was a hitchhiker. Tall, thin, wearing a long coat. But there was something wrong. It wasn't waving. It wasn't moving naturally. It just stood there, staring. My headlights barely illuminated its face, and I realized it didn't have one. No features at all, just smooth, pale skin where a face should have been. I slammed on the brakes. My tires skidded over the asphalt. The figure didn't move. It didn't blink. And then, impossibly, it was closer. Too close. My heart hammered in my chest. I shifted into drive and sped past it. But when I glanced in the rearview mirror, it was running alongside the car, impossibly fast, gliding across the road without touching it. Panic set in. I floored it, my hands shaking on the wheel. The road twisted. The trees seemed to lean over me, their branches scraping the roof. My headlights flickered. The radio sputtered to life. At first, just static. Then, a voice, soft, distorted. "You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here." I slammed the dial, but the voice didn't stop. It got louder, overlapping with itself, echoing in my head. I covered my ears, screaming, and then it cut out. Silence. I kept driving, desperate for a town, a gas station, anything. That's when I saw it. The first building I had passed all day. A gas station, old, abandoned, windows boarded up. But the pumps, they were dripping something dark. I slowed down. The air smelled like burnt rubber and something metallic like blood. I could see shadows moving inside, shifting unnaturally. I didn't stop. I couldn't. Night fell fast. The road disappeared into darkness. My headlights revealed nothing but trees and fog rolling in thick. And then I saw them. Cars, hundreds of them, old, rusted, parked haphazardly along the roadside, broken windows, missing tires, doors hanging off hinges. But it wasn't the cars themselves that scared me. It was the people, figures, pale, twisted, some with limbs bent backward crawling along the hoods, dangling from trees, faces stretched into silent screams. And they all looked at me, all of them. Empty black eyes, grinning mouths that moved in ways mouths shouldn't. I screamed and floored it. My car bounced over potholes, tires screeching, but no matter how fast I went, the cars and figures multiplied. Around every bend, more. They didn't move like humans. They slid, sometimes disappearing into the fog and reappearing ahead, blocking the road. I swerved, trying to escape, and the forest opened to a small clearing. A gas station, or what used to be a gas station. The sign read, Route 66 Last Stop, neon flickering. I slammed on the brakes and jumped out of the car, trying to think. Inside, the station was empty, shelves lined with old cans and dusty bottles. But there was a smell, rotten, sweet, like decay and sugar mixed together. And in the corner, a figure sat, small, hunched over, wearing a hat that shadowed its face. It turned slowly to me. "You were supposed to stay on the road," it said, voice like gravel. "But you stopped. Now, you're one of us." I didn't wait. I bolted, ran to my car, the keys gone. My heart sank. I spun around and the figure was closer, joined by dozens of others, sliding silently over the asphalt, crawling through the grass. I ran into the forest, branches cutting my face and arms, ignoring the pain. Behind me, the whispers rose, chanting in a language I didn't know, yet somehow understood. "Join us. Stay. Never leave." I tripped and fell. Mud covered me. My flashlight had fallen, the batteries dead. I lay there, trembling, thinking I was going to die in the dark, surrounded by those things. Then I saw the lights, faint, flickering, coming from the road ahead. Real lights, headlights, another car. I screamed, waving my arms. The car slowed and stopped. A man leaned out, asking if I was okay. Relief flooded me. I ran to the road, but as I got closer, I realized something horrifying. The driver had no eyes, just empty sockets, staring at me as he smiled. I froze. My instincts screamed to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The driver tilted his head, and then I heard it. The whispering, the scraping sound, the footsteps of countless others moving through the trees. I screamed and something grabbed me from behind. Cold, skeletal hands. I twisted, kicked, clawed. The fog thickened. I felt myself being pulled back into the darkness. My vision blurred. The last thing I remember was looking at the highway. Lights fading, the hum of the car engine mixing with the endless whispers. I woke up on the side of a road miles from where I had been. My car was gone. My backpack, my phone, nothing. Just a stretch of empty highway, sunrise painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. I ran, no destination, just running. Eventually, I found a gas station, a real one, with people, with life. They called the police, but no one believed me. No one could explain why my car wasn't listed as stolen, why my GPS showed I had never left the city limits, why the highway I had driven didn't exist on the map. I've tried to tell people, friends, family, strangers. I even wrote it down in a journal. But the story sounds insane, unreal. Yet every night, I hear the whispers in my dreams. Every time I drive alone, I see figures at the edge of the road, shadows moving in the trees. And sometimes, if I get too close to a back road, I swear I can see that gas station in the distance, flickering neon, waiting for me. I don't drive alone anymore. I avoid highways at night, but I know it's only a matter of time before the road calls me back, because Route 66 never forgets, and neither do they. I'd been planning this road trip for months, just me, my car, and the open road, A week to clear my head, escape the city, escape people. The plan was simple. Drive north through the mountains, stop at a few small towns, camp under the stars, and see where the road took me. I had my playlist ready, snacks packed, and a journal tucked in the glove compartment. I never imagined that this trip would turn into the worst decision of my life. It started innocently enough. The morning sun bounced off the asphalt as I left the city limits, the hum of the engine like a lullaby. Traffic thinned, trees lined the roads, and I felt the first real breath of freedom I'd had in months. I turned onto a secondary highway that cut through the foothills, a road I'd never taken before because it promised shorter travel time and better scenery. The first hour was magical. I rolled down the windows, letting the cold wind hit my face. Birds flew overhead, the scent of pine drifting in. I felt calm, but that calm didn't last long. About 30 miles in, the GPS signal started flickering. The little blue dot that showed my location on the map jumped sporadically, sometimes vanishing entirely. I muttered to myself, frustrated, tapping the screen. I didn't panic yet. After all, I had a paper map tucked in the glove compartment. But a sense of unease started settling in, subtle at first, like a cold hand brushing against my spine. I passed a small diner, the kind that looked straight out of the 50s. A neon sign buzzed faintly. Open 24 hours. I debated stopping for coffee, but something about the place felt off. Empty parking lot, dark windows, the kind of place that's more shadow than structure. I shook my head and kept driving. As the afternoon wore on, the road narrowed. Trees grew closer, their branches clawing at the sky. Shadows stretched over the asphalt like fingers. I caught myself gripping the steering wheel tighter. That's when I noticed the first strange thing. The signs. Every mile marker, every town sign, every directional sign was wrong. Distances doubled, names changed, sometimes entirely disappeared. I passed one sign that said East Hollow 2 miles, only to see another 15 minutes later claiming East Hollow 10 miles. My stomach sank. Then the fog rolled in. Thick, white, and impossibly fast. One moment the sun was shining, the next the world disappeared behind a wall of mist. I slowed to a crawl. The air felt heavier. My headlights barely penetrated the gray, illuminating nothing but more gray. And then, in the middle of the road, I saw it. A car. Old, rusted, parked sideways, no lights, no driver, just sitting there like it had been waiting. My instinct was to swerve around it, but I couldn't. The brakes refused to respond. Panic welled up as I slammed on them, and finally, with a grinding squeal, the car lurched to a stop just inches from the other vehicle. I sat there, heart pounding, staring. And then I noticed movement inside the car, shadows shifting unnaturally, though I couldn't make out a figure. A low hum filled the air, almost imperceptible, but growing. I took a deep breath, told myself it was probably a trick of the fog in my imagination. I had to keep moving. I edged past the car slowly, glancing into the rearview mirror. Nothing. But the feeling didn't leave me. I felt watched. Always watched. I drove on, the fog thickening, twisting the road into shapes that didn't make sense. I passed bridges that seemed too narrow, curves that were sharper than physics allowed, trees that leaned impossibly close. And then the radio came alive. Static at first, then a voice. My name. Whispered, soft, almost tender. My blood ran cold. I turned the dial, tried to change the station, but it persisted. Alex, you shouldn't be here. I slammed the radio off. Nothing. Silence. My pulse was deafening in my ears. And then, out of nowhere, headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. Bright, white, blinding, another car. I sped up instinctively, but no matter how fast I went, it stayed the same distance, keeping pace perfectly. Panic took over. I took the first exit I could find, into a dirt road. The headlights followed. I veered left, then right, hoping to shake it, but it was relentless. It didn't swerve, it didn't signal, it just followed. Then I saw the town. A small cluster of buildings, dimly lit like a forgotten place. I slammed on the brakes and turned into the town square. Nothing moved, no people, no signs of life. Just empty streets, houses with shutters closed, a bell tower that rang intermittently despite no one being around. I stepped out of my car, heart racing, flashlight in hand. The hairs on my neck stood up. The silence was too perfect. And then I heard it, the scraping. Something moving on the rooftops. I swung the flashlight toward the sound. Shadows, elongated and grotesque, shifting along the shingles. Too tall to be human, too fast. I ran back to the car, fumbling with the keys. That's when I noticed the other car parked behind mine. Rusted, old, just like before, but now the driver's side door creaked open. Nothing inside, no figure, just darkness. And then it moved, slowly sliding toward me without a sound. I yanked the door open, jumped in, and slammed it shut. I turned the key. Nothing. The engine refused. My heart sank. The headlights outside weren't moving. The scraping got louder, now accompanied by whispering. "You shouldn't be here. You can't leave." I didn't wait. I kicked the door open and ran down a side street, flashlight swinging, barely able to see through the fog. Houses loomed on either side, windows dark. Some doors were open, swinging in the breeze, though I knew I hadn't passed them before. Every time I turned a corner, I felt their eyes on me. Not human eyes. Hollow, black, unblinking. I found an alley and ducked behind a dumpster. My breath came in ragged gasps. I tried to calm myself, telling myself it was exhaustion, adrenaline, imagination. But the whispers followed me, curling into my ears, taunting. I pressed myself against the wall, praying they wouldn't find me. And then I saw it. A shadow detached itself from the darkness, towering, limbs bent impossibly, moving without touching the ground. Its face, or lack thereof, tilted toward me. I stumbled backward, tripping over trash cans, my flashlight rolling away. In the dim glow of the fog, I could see more shadows emerging from the buildings surrounding me. I ran blindly out of the alley into the street. The town had changed. Streets twisted impossibly, buildings shifted, and the fog had thickened to the point where I could see only a few feet in front. The whispering grew louder, overlapping, almost chanting. "You belong here. You belong here." I turned another corner and stumbled into a church. The doors were unlocked. I pushed them open and slammed them shut behind me. Inside, the air was cold, the pews empty. I sank to the floor, shaking, trying to make sense of what was happening. The whispering continued outside, scraping against the walls. Hours, maybe minutes, passed. I had no sense of time. And then silence. The fog receded slightly. I dared to look outside. Nothing. No shadows, no car, no rusted vehicle. Just the street, quiet and still. I ran. I ran until the town disappeared, until the forest opened, until the highway appeared again. My hands shook so badly I could barely grip the wheel. I drove straight through the night, never looking back. Days later, when I tried to retrace my route, the roads didn't exist. Maps didn't show them. GPS had no record of my path. The diner, the rusted cars, the church, all gone. My friend said I must have gotten lost, imagined things, sleep-deprived and panicked. Maybe I did. But I know what I saw. I know the whispers, the scraping, the shadows. Sometimes, when I drive at night, I swear I see them. Figures at the edge of the road, always watching, waiting, following. And I've learned this. Some roads aren't meant to be traveled. Some towns aren't meant to be found. And if you ever see a sign that says, "Shortcut through the mountains," don't take it, don't follow it, because the road will take you somewhere you'll never leave. The long way home is sometimes the only way out. I never thought a simple road trip could turn into a nightmare. I always loved driving alone, the hum of the engine, the endless stretch of asphalt under a gray sky, and the way the world seemed to shrink to just me, the car, and the road. That Saturday, I left around noon, my car packed with snacks, a couple of camping supplies, and a playlist I had curated for hours. I was headed north, deep into the country, a place where the roads were narrow and the forests stretched endlessly. I wanted solitude, adventure, a break from the city's constant noise. At first, everything was normal. The highway was almost empty, the trees thick and vibrant on either side, sunlight flickering through the leaves. I was singing along to a song I hadn't heard in years when I saw the sign, Cedar Creek, 20 miles. It sounded quaint, like the perfect detour. I didn't know why, but something about that sign made my chest tighten for just a second. I shook it off. The road became narrower as I turned off the highway, winding into the woods. The sunlight dimmed behind a canopy of trees and the air smelled sharper, heavier. That's when I first noticed it, the sense that I wasn't entirely alone. I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see another car, but there was nothing. Just the winding road and the way the shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally, creeping over the pavement. I reached a fork in the road. There were no signs this time, left or right. My gut told me left. That decision would haunt me forever. The road was rougher here, cracks in the asphalt, branches brushing against the sides of my car. My radio, which had been playing normally, suddenly fizzled and went dead. The static was soft at first, then loud, buzzing like it had a pulse. I reached to turn it off, but it wouldn't respond. Then I saw the figure. It was at the edge of the trees, just standing there. I thought I imagined it at first. Maybe it was a trick of the shadows. But then it stepped onto the road. A man? Or was it a woman? I couldn't tell. His, or its face, was obscured by a hood, but the way it stood, just watching, froze me in place. I slammed the brakes, tires screeching, and then it vanished. I checked the rearview mirror frantically, but the road was empty. My heart was hammering. I wanted to turn around, drive back to the highway, get away from this place, but my sense of direction was failing me. Every turn I took seemed to lead me deeper into the woods. The trees closed in, their branches scratching the sides of the car, leaves falling like whispers. The sun began to set, and with the fading light, the road seemed to twist and warp. I passed signs that didn't make sense. Welcome to Cedar Creek, then Cedar Creek, 50 miles. 50 miles? I'd just passed the 20-mile sign. Panic clawed at me. I tried to call someone, anyone, but my phone had no signal. The shadows grew longer. That's when I noticed the footprints, not human. Large, deep, pressed into the soft dirt beside the road. They weren't from my car. They were fresh. And they were everywhere. I tried to convince myself it was an animal, maybe a bear or a large dog, but my gut screamed otherwise. I felt eyes on me, even when I was alone in the car. The road narrowed even more, dirt and gravel now instead of asphalt. I passed a small abandoned gas station, or what looked like one. The windows were broken, the pump rusted over, but there was a figure standing inside, barely visible. It didn't move, just stared. I didn't stop. I couldn't. Night fell, and the forest closed in completely. The car's headlights barely pierced the darkness. That's when the engine died. Just nothing. No hum, no click, no response when I turned the key. I was stranded, alone. Then I heard it. A knock on the roof of the car, soft at first, then heavier, like someone was walking across it. I froze, clutching the steering wheel. It's just a branch, I whispered to myself. But the sound moved to the hood, then the windows. A scraping sound, slow, deliberate. I dared not move. The car door rattled. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I fumbled for my flashlight. I shone it through the windshield. Nothing. Darkness. But I could feel it. The air changed, heavy, cold, almost smelling of decay. Then I saw it in the beam of the flashlight. A figure, pale, faceless, standing just beyond the light. Too tall, too thin, limbs bent in wrong angles. It raised a hand. I swear, it raised a hand and pointed at me. I didn't wait. I threw the door open and ran. Branches scratched my face, tore at my clothes, but I didn't stop. I could hear footsteps behind me, long, scraping, inhuman. Every time I glanced back, the figure was closer, moving with impossible speed, gliding more than running. I found a creek and dove in, water soaking through my clothes, but the footsteps didn't stop. Then I saw it. Dozens of them, figures emerging from the darkness, all pale and thin, faceless, moving silently, surrounding me. My scream echoed through the trees, swallowed immediately by the night. I woke up hours later, maybe dawn, lying on the side of the road. My car was gone. The road was empty. I was alone. My body was sore, my clothes torn, and the creek water had dried into mud on my skin. I ran. I ran until the trees thinned, and I saw another road, a real highway this time, cars passing, lights bright and comforting. I flagged one down, barely able to speak. They didn't believe me. The police didn't find a car, didn't find any tracks, nothing at all. Just a stretch of road that led nowhere, twisting in ways that didn't match the map. They thought I was hallucinating, sleep-deprived, exhausted. Maybe I was, but I know what I saw. I know what I felt. Weeks later, I found a news report about a missing vehicle in the North Woods, abandoned. No passengers, no explanation, just the car, empty, in perfect condition, as if nothing had ever happened. I never go back to that road. I don't take detours. I don't trust signs that seem too perfect, too quaint. And every time I drive at night, alone, I can't help but think about those figures, waiting, just beyond the light, watching. The road is never empty. Not really. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear the scraping. Always scraping. More unexplained horrors coming soon. Subscribe to stay updated.